Some people, they tell me that Britain doesn't have a future. And sometimes, I have to agree when I see the catastrophic errors of judgement. And no, I'm not referencing the Prime Minister addressing the public without a seatbelt. No. All that, taxpayer-funded, heated, luxury stable Nadime Zahari. The tax avoider. Yeah, just mislaid her. 5 million quid in taxes. 5 million. And how did he get the 5 million in taxes? Because, he sold YouGov. Well, that sounds like a conflict of interest in the first place. And then we have that other numpty, anti-vax numpty, that he is Andrew Bridgen. Oh, we all love Andrew Bridgen, don't we? Well, he calls himself a Spartan, he does. Spandex, more like it. Well, please boot the old like button. And there will be a secret word at the end of the video. If you want to support the channel, you can do that on Patreon or buy us a coffee, and the links are down below in the description. Now, should we accept that society has, it's gave up as being part of the modern world, and it's just believing its own lies now? I think so. Right about now, the world is looking on in aghast. They go Schadenfreude, they go. They're bewildered and stunned. It's asking the same question that many Brits are. Does Britain even have a future? The answer to that question is, and I won't mince my words, goes a bit like this, as things stand. Nope. Britain has no future whatsoever. Perhaps that sounds rather harsh, and if it does, there's a little bit more context, I suppose. Britain is a society that now is in a state of collapse. That is so far off the charts that there's no comparisons, no precedents. Really, this is contemporary history of developed nations, ever. The GDP is, that's on the gross domestic products, is on course to be 11% smaller than if Brexit had never happened. Double-digit decline. Now that's on the level of the Great Depression, heart attack scale contractions. This is entirely unprecedented. Outside true social collapses like, Latin America, crypto, anybody? Their currency collapse. Even the, Great Recession of 2008 didn't come close. Russia's economy is going to shrink less this year than Britain's has. Contracted, thanks to, dare I say it, Brexit. But Russia played its hand and fed the public singular brain cell, at least 17.4 million of them, into convincing them to put that cross in the wrong box. Yes, I said it. Meanwhile, sadly, there's about 500 to 1,000 people dying every single week. Whether it's in their own homes because the ambulance hasn't turned up, whether it's in the back of the ambulance, or whether it's, just waiting in a corridor on a flippin' trolley. All because the NHS has collapsed under these Tories. And Brits, they can't get health care. No, it hasn't been adjusted full population. All the advancements in technology. I know what they say, everyone's getting older. Well, I think we've known this for some time, Surely you would have made those adjustments by now, instead of waiting until, it's too late. And now we've got Sajid Javid. Okay, he's not in the cabinet anymore, but he's making suggestions that you need to go and pay 60 quid to go and see your GP. So many people won't be bothered. Well, they can't afford to, many of them, to actually see the GP. And they'll just go sick. And they may die as well. Well, a lack of progressive investment and value for money procurement. None of this 30 quid for a box of flippin' rubber gloves. No, when you get them for £5, and none of that script. We don't need that rubbish, because it's all flippin' privatised. Well, this death toll of 500 to 1,000 odd people a week, that's like a 9/11 every couple of weeks. But this is calamity on the scale of war, but Britain's not at war with anybody but itself. Now, these social indicators are rather jaw-dropping, if not breathtaking. And this is not hyperbole, or exaggeration, or what Brits call, scaremongering. And if they had a little bit of time, they'd say, well, it's teething troubles. They'd ask if Britain has a future anymore. It's a necessary question because Britain's, what they've done to themselves is unique and unparalleled in the history of, a contemporary world. It's the first developed nation to have turned itself into a failed state, replete with all the kinds of breathtaking indicators of collapse that we have never seen outside far poorer and less developed countries. In fact, they're all taking over us anyway. Look at India. For God's sake, what's going on over there? Our economy is going like that. Our gross domestic product is the big largest economies, and India's going up there and going through the roof. Well, we've never seen living standards fall this fast, this hard, in the club of developed nations. No, and that just points to calamity of rather shattering and historic proportions. So that Britain isn't even really asking this question, is it? No. Does it? Does Britain really have a future? Make you wonder. Well, quite frankly, they should chill, Brits, if that is. And if it does, maybe they're capable of learning much of anything. Now, Britain faces a little more than steady economic contraction, leading to further collapse of what torn social contract it has left. Now, in turn, producing even faster falling living standards, proportionally, potentially a tipping point for civil unrest. That's where we're heading. Every time we get on the streets, and you know what the government will do? They'll suggest a purge. That's what they'll do. You have to go out and one day a year you go out and shoot each other. Get population down, you see. Maybe. I won't be a bit surprised. Well, the Conservative, being the party has been in power for nearly 13 years now, isn't it? By contrast, Trump was in power for just 4. 3 times as long as the Tories, and in that veritable political epoch, they achieved everything their fanatical lunatic wing ever dreamt of. And then some. They forced Britain out of the European Union for a start. How's that panning out for you? They've collapsed the NHS, ready for more chunks to be privatised, and basically, eviscerated the BBC. Well, actually, probably every single institution, including the Royal Mail, it seems. There's next to no social contract left to speak of. Brits shivering in the cold and struggling to pay their bills. And worse, they've convinced Brits that a regressive mindset, you could say that, is the solution to their problems. Scapegoating is the answer. That's what the Tories do. That's what Alexander Boris the Johnson did all the way along during his premiership. It's everybody else's fault. Blame game. Blame game. I'll get my worms out in a minute. Well, yeah, blame everybody else, and quite frankly, everybody else who can't even defend themselves or other nations. Now, given all that, you might imagine that Britain would have an opposition. Wouldn't we like that? I'm sure we would. Leave it in the comments down below. But it doesn't. It doesn't. Some people hate me for saying this, but the Labour Party was one of the world's greatest institutions. This is the positive bit. Yeah, it was. One of the first social democratic parties in the world. And now? Its agenda is basically exactly what the Conservatives want. Just maybe, just a little bit nicer. But in terms of the broad political beliefs, make Brexit work, that's an oxymoron. Britain has, now has 2 extreme, and I mean extreme, right-wing parties. Well, at least Labour's right of centre. But would I still vote Labour when I've got to put that cross in that box? Well, quite frankly, the answer is yes. Since the alternative is flippin' suicide. And the frying pan that looks far more cosy and comfortable than the fire. You're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. Hence, has Britain got a future? Definitely not. And the word of today, the secret word of today, because I'm thinking about these Tories, you see, and one in particular, Nadime Zahari, who didn't pay his flippin' tax bill. Con merchant. Had a cheek to flip and try and sue the geese, so, yeah. Who leaked it? Well, investigated them. Then leaked it. Made it public. Well, Nadime Zahari should be on the run. A bit like McAfee. You know the geezer who developed the McAfee antivirus software, who went around telling all the big corporations, the big wigs and the mafia and what have you, oh, I know everything about you because I've hacked you. That's pretty much what he told them. He went on a run. Eventually he died. Well, some people say he got killed in prison. He was a bit of an odd character, I must say, but very clever one too. But the word of today, if you're wondering where I'm going with this, is virus, because that's what these Tories are. They are a virus, and you know what we need? We need a vaccine. And that vaccine is probably, well, dare I say it, is going to be the Labour Party. Oh, anyway, if you want to support us, you do that on Patreon or buy us a copy, and links down below. And you probably know this, and if you don't, we plant trees, we do. Oh yes, we plant trees. Been planting them we want to plant 1,000 trees, if not more, might be as many as 1,500 on 2 hectares of land that we have here in France. So yes, we've got the land. I want you to help us plant the trees. So the link down below, and if you want, you can make a contribution. We'll source the trees on your behalf. But not only that, I will make a sign, because I'm a woodworker, you see. Yeah, planes and stuff. Yeah, anyway, rotors and whatever. Anyway, I'll make signs of whatever to go with the trees. A bit like that one over there. Or a bit like that one over there. It's a Patreon, that's another hint. And, so, if you want to make a contribution where we will then get a tree, we'll put a tree in the ground for you, and I'll make a sign, go with it. It could be your name, or it could be a memory of somebody, or pet or whatever. Maybe you lost something in the pandemic, I don't know. Anyway, yeah. Also, my plan was to go do my normal live stream on Sunday, but I've been told I've got to pick the missus up from the airport. Yeah, it happens to be too close to when I've got to do my stream on Sunday. So I won't be doing my live stream this Sunday, but I'm going to do it Monday instead, so I hope that's okay. Anyway, that's the end of my rant. That was a bit of a rant, wasn't it? Yeah. Oh dear, it's just driving me mad when you're writing this stuff and doing your research and stuff. I'll tell you, I get so angry. Take Valium! I ain't got any. Ta-ta. Remember, the secret word of today is virus, because that's what these Tories are. Ta-ta.